In their rush to the airport, the McAllisters overlooked one minor detail. Now, his parents have a problem.
I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. I am going to get home to my son.
Two burglars are in trouble.
We know that you're in there. Hands up!
And Kevin is in heaven. Home Alone. Rated PG. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, and welcome to Cinemarcade. This is the podcast. It's all about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when those worlds collide. In this case, it's the burglars that fly, that fall, that get horribly injured, because today we're talking about Home Alone, one of the most successful comedies of all time. And it's become kind of an enduring holiday favorite as well. My name is abandoned latchkey child Steve Guntley, and who's here with me today?
I'm a wet bandit, J-Ban.
I am the wettest bandit, Justin.
Hey, it's not a contest. It's not a contest. I know you like to come over here all drippy, but,
Look,
you're both entitled to the title.
it's my calling card.
Absolutely. Well, you have to.
You have to have a calling card if you're going to be a criminal.
Absolutely. You
How
absolutely
else
do.
will the police link all of the crimes to you?
That used to be a real thing. It used to be a thing like it was a literal card that criminals would just say, "Hey, you've just been robbed by Jimmy Pants and the boys," and they'll throw it down. It's like that's a real great way for you to get caught, Jimmy Pants. You're just immediately gonna get
You're just like
slammer.
Jimmy Pants.
Jimmy Pants. Yeah.
They stop you.
He leaves a pair of pants at every scene. Pants.
Here's a pair of trousers that go right up under your nipples. Yeah.
And this man, he walks around, he's trouserless, has nothing to do with this case. Nothing to do with this case.
And in the pocket is the card of like, you've been pantsed by Jimmy Pants and the boys.
I'm more curious than I want a whole movie about the boys.
So I think it's really funny how there's this enduring love the Home Alone movies have for film noir.
Yeah.
And it's just like you have this small child watching the grittiest film noir gangster movie.
I have to ask, how old were y'all when you realized that is not a real movie?
I think I knew just because the guy is the same guy and the name, but I don't know how old I was when I realized it wasn't a real movie.
See, I remember noticing there was something off in the second movie, which we'll get to, but I remember noticing there was something off. I just assumed it was like a computer generated or something. I thought it was a special effect that they brought this beloved actor back to be in a fake sequel. I knew the sequel wasn't real. But I really thought this original movie was real because the movie in this is called Angels with Filthy Souls. There is a gangster movie called Angels with Dirty Faces. I think I read that in my Leonard Maltin guide as a kid and just assumed they were the same thing. But now I know better. I know that's a fake movie inside a real movie that is called Home Alone.
Angels with Filthy Souls, to me, is a different genre of film.
It's slightly different. Maybe you don't get it from the same part of the video store. But yes, we're talking about Home Alone today. This movie was released November 16th, 1990. It's directed by Chris Columbus, written by John Hughes, and it stars Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, Catherine O'Hara, John Hurd, Roberts Blossom, Devin Ratray, Kieran Culkin, and John Candy. This is one of the most enduring holiday films of my lifetime, definitely. And also one of the most successful comedies of all time. And looking back on it, I think this is one of the weirder film phenomenons of recent American history. It is so strange that this movie became such a viral sensation. And we also got one of the most unique movie stars of my lifetime out of this movie in Macaulay Culkin. Macaulay Culkin hit levels that no child star ever has, except for maybe Shirley Temple.
Yeah. Shirley Temple was bigger than Macaulay Culkin.
Arguably.
What about Hannah Montana?
No, she was bigger. She was not as big. Yeah. He was a movie star. He was a bona fide movie star before the age of 10. And like he was opening movies, like he was the reason people were going to these things. And his whole career was really rather short. But I do want to go into a little bit of Culkin because he's really interesting.
The Culkster.
The Culkster.
Because if we call him the Caulk, it's awkward.
You don't call him that. Culkin, he was born into an aspiring showbiz family. So his father, Kit, was a failed actor, and his aunt, I didn't know this, is actually Bonnie Bedelia from Die Hard.
Oh, wow.
Had no idea that they were
Didn't
related.
know.
But
Who
that
was
is
that?
wild.
in
It's
Die
Holly
Hard?
in Die Hard.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Macaulay Culkin's aunt, his dad's sister.
Okay.
And so Kit Culkin was apparently a pretty shitty guy, but he pushed his children to go into acting at a young age, which is the classic story of a frustrated stage parent trying to live vicariously through his kids.
I think that's how you become a film star at 10.
It kind of is, yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of is. I mean, he made his acting debut in a TV movie when he was 5 years old, and he followed that up with theatrical roles in movies like Rocket Gibraltar and Uncle Buck. And it was that latter film that I think led directly to getting this movie, because Uncle Buck is written and directed by John Hughes, who wrote the screenplay to this movie. And I think he just recognized that this kid's got kind of like a charisma to him.
He's got a charisma, but he's so tiny. Like when he's playing 8 years old, he's a 10-year-old, but he looks so little.
Yeah.
He looks itty bitty.
He's a wee guy. He's got this kind of angelic little face, and he's precocious, you know? Like, he always seems to be kind of like running a scam on you in a way. And that's an interesting persona for a little kid in the 90s to have.
Baby sociopath.
A baby sociopath.
He seems very puntable.
But I think that's his gift, is that, like, he plays a lot of obnoxious, precocious kids, and I don't want to put him through a wall. Like, you know,
Okay.
like, I don't want to imply that I would ever put a kid through a wall. I just want to say, figure of speech. But, like,
for the listeners who don't know, Steve's walls are all patched up.
they are.
They're
they are.
really messed, and I've always wondered why.
Yeah, don't
and
pay
was
any
too
attention,
afraid to ask.
Don't pay any attention to those Heelys that are sticking out of my wall over there. They're
Oh,
unrelated.
wait, can I have them?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Are you a size 1?
No. But I've always wanted Heelys.
I do think it's really important to think about how hard it is to cast child actors that aren't annoying.
It's tricky. And that's why there have been so few kind of phenomenons like Macaulay Culkin after this. So this movie comes out, is the biggest hit of 1990. It's this runaway phenomenon, and he's the center of this movie. He's in at damn near every scene of this movie. So obviously they're going to try and capitalize on some of that. But his career was ultimately really very short. Okay, so his whole career after Home Alone is My Girl, Home Alone 2,
Ugh, My Girl,
Getting Even with Dad, The Good Son, The Page Master, and Richie Rich. And so by 1994, his run is over. You know, he hits puberty and they kind of move on. And he also just didn't want to continue acting. You know, and yeah, he also had a lot of personal life issues that were struggling with. He had a lawsuit against his parents, a very highly publicized lawsuit, because they were trying to take control of his fortune, and he didn't want them to. And he hasn't really spoken to his parents since that settlement happened. The courts did rule in his favor, luckily.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? Like, respect to him for going, you know what, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I've earned enough to not have to do anything I don't want to do for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. He can probably live off of residuals.
Yeah, the
for this
residuals.
movie.
And just do what he wants.
Yeah.
Travel, whatever hobbies or skills.
Just lie in
just
a
anything.
warm bathtub and sip champagne.
Well, what he's chosen to do, he is now the father of 2 kids with actress Brenda Song. They're engaged. Just this month, he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara presented it to him. A very lovely little speech. And this same month, Home Alone got added into the National Film Registry. So Culkin's having a good month. But other than that, like, he kind of like, he'll pop up in projects when he wants to. Like, his one big like adult movie role was this film called Party Monster that came out in 2003, where he was playing like this drag queen. It was an interesting role for him to take, but that movie didn't quite connect. Otherwise, he just kind of pops in whenever, and most of what he does is music. He has a pizza-themed experimental rock band. It sounds really bizarre and really fun, and he just, you know,
this
he
guy
does what he
just
wants.
fucking loves cheese pizza.
He loves cheese pizza. He's absolutely
And, like,
crazy about it.
I love pizza.
Yeah.
and so I appreciate it.
Would you start
but
a music collective about
So
it?
this is something that
probably
this
honestly.
is something that that should be advertised to everybody, but I'm conscious of it, but it drives me crazy because I have to be conscious of it. But at the same time, I love cheese pizza.
Sure.
However, you gotta save the cheese pizza for the vegetarians.
You really do.
And it's just like, and and especially like, so many times you go places, and I like vegetarian and vegan food because it's tasty.
Sure.
And but the vegetarian and vegans, like, everyone eats their food, so they don't have anything to eat. So it's just like, it's a complete, like, you save the cheese pizza for the vegetarians.
You do. You absolutely
And
do.
instead, you eat the chicken bacon pizza or pepperoni mushroom pizza. And
We discovered Philly feta. Philly feta is kind of the winning recipe,
steak and
right? Like
feta.
last time we got pizza, it was Philly feta, and that was delicious.
I like chicken, bacon, Kalamata olives, and goat's cheese.
I'm not
With
an olives
barbecue
person.
sauce.
Have you tried, like, so no
I guess
one's an
I haven't
olive
tried
person.
olives in quite a
You
while,
need to try
but-
a plate of olives.
I
and be like,
don't go that far.
Because you, like, if you have only ever had cheap olives, like, cheap olives are disgusting.
It's entirely possible that the only olives I've ever eaten were on a pizza.
And those those olives are disgusting. Those olives are not representative of olives. Like, they're like, I'll take you to an olive bar. I'll get 6 olive bars.
Olive bar?
They have
Yeah.
a garden there.
I know about the garden, but the bar?
Whole Foods and Central Market, like, fancy
stores.
markets and grocery stores have olive bars, and you get Kalamata olives, you get like Castello olives, like all of these olives, and they're so my mouth is watering.
And then we
right
put
now
them in the
talking about
microwave
olives.
See,
so
my
we can
mouth
watch
is-
them go zappy.
My mouth is drying
they've
out
got the
thinking about
pimento.
those little salt bombs that are Kalamata olives that will dry me out like a desert immediately. Take one bite and you're instantly Saharan. You're dried out.
That's why you also put pineapple on it to get some juiciness in there.
No, God, no,
Oh.
pineapple and olives. No, that's
you got the
not a
sour and
mix.
the salty. I think that goes well.
I don't know if I would call it pineapples.
Yeah, a little tart.
Yeah, definitely in the neighborhood.
I like
now that
pineapple
think
on a
about it.
pizza. I will go on record at saying that.
Yeah, me
but
It has to be with the right toppings.
I think pineapple, like, it's really interesting that they have pineapple and ham, because I feel like pineapple and bacon is better.
It's a better combo.
Yeah, and also bacon is just a better ham.
See, now I'm just wanting a lot of pizza. All right, we better move on before
I haven't had dinner.
we better
I'm
move on
hungry.
before I just get on DoorDash here.
I thought about that earlier. I was like, would it be weird if I just DoorDash?
You can DoorDash some food here, or you can help yourself. I have food if you want any food. A little
it's
bit
so
more
funny
about
because, like, speaking of DoorDash, like, a pizza was $12, still pretty comparable.
yeah, pizzas hold steady.
But it was really interesting. Have any of you ever been a pizza delivery person?
No.
No, I worked at a Papa Murphy's for a little bit, but I know
I've
I
never been a
was-
pizza
I was a
delivery guy,
Pizza
but I
Hut-
know that guy sucks at it.
I was a pizza delivery girl for a while until I think my father broke my car on purpose so I wouldn't be a pizza. Because I was telling him, like, yeah, I keep delivering these pizza and then they keep wanting me to come inside the hotel room.
Whoa!
And then all of a sudden my car didn't work, and so I had to quit. And
What
then all of
age
a
was
sudden
this
my
at?
car worked. I was 16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good dadding, I guess.
yeah, that's probably for the best. A little bit more about this movie. So John Hughes did not want to direct it. He wrote the script, but he didn't want to direct it. So he passed it along to some friends of his. Chris Columbus was the person who came in and took on
Not the one who
role.
found the United States.
Not that
in,
one.
In some tellings.
That's very true, yes. So previously, Chris Columbus had the chance to direct an earlier John Hughes Christmas movie, which would have been National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But after 1 week of working on that movie, he quit.
Because of Chevy Chase?
But exactly. He claimed life is too short to work with Chevy Chase. And he quit. And that was only his second
Wise.
movie
Oh
ever.
my god! So
you
I was
know?
listening to Mark Maron's "What the Fuck" podcast with
Yeah.
Chevy Chase today.
Oh, really?
And he is so weirdly combative. Like, you say
Yeah.
something, and he's all like, "Hey, what did you just say?" You know, and it's so combative, and
Yeah.
it's just,
He's a famously huge asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Chris Columbus opted to do this movie instead, which I think probably ultimately worked out better for him. So they have an $18 million budget on this, which was kind of a lot for a comedy, but still relatively workable. Now, the studio to play the burglars originally asked Robert De Niro and John Lovitz. Those were their 2 picks for Marv and Harry. But when neither was available, the roles fell to Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. Now, Pesci was having an unbelievable year in 1990. Okay, so he had some kind of scene-stealing roles in the Lethal Weapon movies. And then in 1990, his 2 films are Home Alone, the highest-grossing film of the year, and Goodfellas, for which he wins Best Supporting Actor Oscars.
Yeah.
Those are his. That's his 1990. And it always makes me so happy when unconventional guys like Pesci become movie stars, and that's what he was for at least a couple years.
Yeah.
You know, like he was like a marquee movie star, and you gotta
Man,
love that.
what a year for Joe Pesci.
Hell of a year. And Daniel Stern was having a pretty good year too. I mean, he was kind of just sort of one of those character actors who's just been rattling around for a bit. They approached him to do this movie originally. He passed. They offered the movie to an actor named Daniel Roebuck, and who's also kind of like another short, kind of heavyset guy. So he and Pesci didn't really have very different energy. You know, they were kind of like, they needed somebody like to play off of Pesci's size and everything like that. So Daniel Stern's very tall, very lanky, and at this point
He has amazing
he's got amazing hair. He was best known, I think, at this point as being the narrator of The Wonder Years, which was a big hit show at that time. Yeah.
And a great way to get your name out there, to be a narrator and not even presumably be on screen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, he's never on screen in that
Christopher
show.
Columbus wrote The Goonies?
He did.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Oh.
Oh, okay. You're
I-
going to be mad at me when we get to the Goonies episode, just based on
no.
your reaction there. I hate that movie.
All right, that's a different podcast.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
that's,
No,
a,
save that.
no,
that's a story. That's a conversation for other podcast times.
But why am I the only one here who likes The Goonies?
I think he might be. All right,
I've-
we'll get into
Granted,
that. when we
I
get
saw it for the first time as an adult, so
Yeah.
it hit different. I
I
think.
did.
Well, there's
Yeah.
definitely
But-
like a lot of comedies. There are things about it that don't age well, but it's so mischievous.
Yeah.
I wasn't a mischievous kid though.
All right,
I was a good boy.
I'll save it for the Goonies podcast, but I will say the thing that I can't get past with that movie is that it's a film full of what we were talking about, the obnoxious child actors.
Yeah.
And all of them are just yelling over each other, trying to be the funniest person, and it drives me insane. But I'll save it.
Yeah, we'll step aside.
Yes.
But-
Otherwise, this podcast is going to be twice as long.
Well, let's contrast because
Yeah.
what Corey Feldman is in that, and Corey Feldman definitely for me veers into the annoying child actor.
Feldman was really good when he was really good, but I think as his career got on a little bit, his persona became a little more desperate, a little more like eager to please, and that wasn't very fun. But yeah, so this movie, all the exteriors of this are shot in Winnetka, Illinois, like most of John Hughes' films, and I remember that because my mom used to tell me that my aunt and uncle live on that exact same street where Home Alone is
nice.
shot. Like, I don't know them very well, but they're lawyers, and apparently they're very moneyed. And this is a moneyed-ass neighborhood.
Neighborhood.
I still, like, it's one of those things I have a hard time wrapping my head around, that this family with their 8 children and, like, massive mansion can afford to live on a
So
single
they only have
income
5
house.
children.
Okay, yeah, I know. I was exaggerating.
But they have the
but yeah.
cousins and the aunts and the uncles. But they were going to take 15 people to Paris.
And
Okay, yeah.
just the dad was paying for it.
Yes.
Well,
and
no, the brother that lives in Paris is paying for it, so I'm wondering what that guy does. Because they have an apartment with like this bay window overlooking the Eiffel Tower. Okay, that means they're right in central Paris, and that's like probably ridiculously expensive. And as we see in the next movie, they have a townhouse in Manhattan that they're completely renovating from top to bottom. So I'm wondering what they do. I think this whole family's in some kind of weird Catholic drug cartel.
I think
or
they're.
something. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if this is just the companion piece to Goodfellas? This is the children.
Yeah, exactly. This is what happened after they found the One-Eye Willie's gold. They just spent it on all of this.
But then the Joe Pesci, that one goes weird then,
Yeah.
because like.
But there's plenty of petty criminals who aren't part of the family.
No.
But
I mean, so and I guess the last thing to say is that this movie made $256 million in 1990, which was enough to make it the highest-grossing film of that year, and it broke a record for being number 1 at the box office for 12 weeks in a row, a record that would hold until Titanic came out and did it for 15 weeks. So a ridiculous runaway success that minted one of our strangest movie stars ever. How many times would you guys estimate you've seen this movie?
Oh gosh.
2?
Okay, all right, you can nail it down.
As a child, countless. But I did see Home Alone 2 more than Home Alone 1.
That might be my case too.
I think I remembered more about Home Alone 2. Because like I very vaguely knew that I'd seen Home Alone before, and it's possible that I've seen like bits here and there, like channel surfing.
Yeah.
During the holiday season, because dear God, is it always going to be on like ABC or whatever?
Right, it's one of those for sure.
But yeah, no, this was never a big thing in my. We didn't really watch a lot of Christmas movies that I remember. We did like the old school like Rudolph and stuff.
Sure.
We didn't do like Home Alone or what's the one with the lamp of a lady's leg?
Oh,
Shoot
Christmas
Your Eye Out.
Story.
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
Story. Yeah.
No, this one. I mean, I was thinking this. We were talking the other day about like what movies we've seen the most, because I went to a screening of Muppets Christmas Carol. I was realizing I've probably seen this movie at least every year since it's come out. So that's like nearly 30 times, more than 30 times. And I'm thinking, like, are there many movies I've seen more than that? And I think all the ones I've seen the most are just Christmas movies because they're just
Society.
kind of inescapable. And this movie is just
they're
so
perennial.
watchable.
Like you Christmas movies, you get in the season. There's a reason why Spotify doesn't count December in your Christmas Wrapped.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. It's just gonna be all Bing Crosby, and that's not gonna be an accurate representation.
Do you know how many covers of All I Want for Christmas Is You there are?
2.
No, there's a lot.
I know.
And they're all on Spotify. And so I may or may not have just trolled my roommates with that a lot. Because like All I Want for Christmas plays, and then another version plays, and they're like, "What is happening?" And then a third one. By the fourth one, like, you need to stop this.
I think
and
I'm
then
currently winning our office poll. We've got a game. We're doing that Wham game.
Yeah, I haven't heard Wham yet this year,
I
which
have
is
not been whammed.
wild. I have not heard Wham.
Everyone else in my office has been whammed, I think. So it's down to just me. As long as I can avoid George Michael for a few more days, it should be good.
But now I just insert them into unsuspecting playlists when we're
Oh,
listening.
yeah, very
I'm just
smart.
like, let me add this to the queue. Let me throw that 5 songs down the line, and it'll happen when it happens.
There you go.
We'll listen to
Absolutely.
3 different versions tonight at various
Yeah.
points.
Have you been getting the stripped down acoustic version?
No.
Treat them to the
It's
acoustic version.
like the pop or the Punkos pop and stuff.
yeah.
A lot of that.
I think covers are exempt, at least in the way
There's
we're playing it.
a Christmas song that I had never heard before until I went to Scotland and I lived there, and it's so fucking popular. And it's about Christmas. I think it might be called Christmas in New York, but it's like so shady. It's like basically.
Are you thinking Fairy Tale New York by the
Yeah,
Pogues?
Fairy Tale. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
It's-
I fucking love the Pogues.
I love that song, but
Oh.
it's so. The song is so shady as a Christmas song.
It's great. We just lost Shane McGowan a couple of weeks ago, the lead singer of that band, and that's one of the great Christmas songs for sure.
I was always more partial to Winter in Chicago by Flatfoot 56.
I'll take your word on that. That
a
sounds
good
like a
time.
local Illinoisan thing.
Kind of, yeah.
But yeah, Home Alone is it is a movie I've watched so many times because as a kid you're just like absolutely into it because there's so few movies of this size and this caliber that are just geared towards kids and capturing the kid experience. And so like it was really interesting and enchanting then. And as an adult, I still really enjoy this movie because I've come to really like John Hughes' sensibilities where like he has no problem just kind of drifting into cartoonishness, like whenever it
These
suits
guys
him.
would have been dead like 7 times.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a combination of cartoonishness, but also reality because his
Yeah.
characters have this grittiness to them. Like they're actually like the fight between Kevin and his mom is actually uncomfortable.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Can we get on to the parenting that's going on in that household? Because
I think this is a
Yikes.
movie that is really bending over backwards to not paint these parents as horribly negligent or terrible. And I think they succeeded that. It helps that they have Catherine O'Hara playing the mother here. She's unbelievable.
Yeah,
even
she's
from
so
from this
good.
age. Like from this point, I knew her from Beetlejuice, but like
Yeah.
she's unbelievable. And
She's so good in Schitt's Creek.
yeah, no, she's fantastic. She's having this great like late career resurgence right now, and it's so deserved. But yeah, she's wonderful in this, and I think she plays it so harried and so hectic, and that like she's throwing all of her resources as much as humanly possible, and that we see that she's doing everything she can to get back. So, you know, we don't judge her too horribly harshly. I would argue by the second movie some of that goes away, but we'll get to that.
Like we'll get to the second movie when we get to it. But like I thought it was really funny because like honestly, if all my family was in Paris, I'd be like, stay in Paris.
Yeah.
I'll go get the kid. Like the kid's at home.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's fine.
No, we're going to cancel vacation. We're going to fly everyone back home.
Last minute ticket prices. Like,
From Paris, yeah.
From Paris.
Like, pay it once.
Yeah.
Well, technically, like 3 times. 1 to go back and then twice to come in.
Yeah.
And then just leave when the original time to
But
leave was.
let's
They're going through a mad scramble here.
Let's get back to the beginning with the argument.
Yeah.
The argument where
God
he
damn.
has 14 people look at him like he's the smallest, most insignificant thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's so it gets your heart and you're like, oh my gosh, these people are jerks. Fuck that.
Yeah.
And Macaulay really walks the line here because he is being a little bit of a shit, but we also do feel like his
I think
kind
it's
of isolation.
warranted to a degree.
Well, and like this is
Yeah.
the like anybody who has been a younger sibling knows this bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
Buzz is the quintessential big brother, and he's such a fucking shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's an asshole, and like he, you know, everything is really his fault, but Kevin responded with violence and everything. But a friend of mine, Chris Antista, he runs the 30-20-10 podcast. A couple years ago, he did a special episode of his show Laser Time where he broke down every step of this movie, like how many different clockwork kind of things have to happen in order for Kevin to be left home alone. I think that's where the mechanics of this movie are really clever. Like, we need to see exactly, like, okay, the power goes out, so there's this mad scramble. They've got this huge house full of people. The tickets get milk spilled on them, so they don't notice that his ticket is missing. He's sleeping in the attic because they have a fight, so it's easy to kind of forget that he's there. The kid from next door is over there, so they count him by mistake. Like, there are so many ways where they take like, blame off
That
of his
little
parents.
shit, though, was just rummaging through their bags.
Does this have four-wheel transmission? Does this have all-wheel drive?
First he's bugging the drivers, which I'm like, all right, whatever. But then he's like, oh, they put a bag in here already. And he just starts rummaging through.
He
and
does.
It's like, he picks up their camera and takes a picture with it and then just throws it back down and starts rummaging some
Have
more.
any of you ever had to run through an airport?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, it's so horrible.
It's
you
so
get
stressful.
so sweaty underneath your clothes, and it's so stressful, and it's so like what's worse is like having to be like, okay, I got to get through security, and then I have to run, and
Yeah.
you know, like don't look shady during security because you're like, I got to get the fuck out.
I gotta
of here.
go.
There's only once that I had to be like, oh, sorry, excuse me, do you mind if I like? And I only managed to do that for 2 people because I was too embarrassed. I was like, I'm just gonna miss my flight. I'm too the embarrassment is too much.
And
Yeah.
we're talking about post 9/11 air travel.
Yeah, yeah.
They're at pre 9/11 air
Where
travel.
you can still run up to the gate. Yeah.
Because they left their home 45 minutes before the flight left.
Yeah.
Which is wild, considering I've been to O'Hare before. Excuse me?
That's a
Just
chaotic
the
airport.
traffic around O'Hare, getting to O'Hare, unless they live real close, is going to take some time.
But again, you need that time crunch so that they're not
Oh, yeah.
realizing they left Kevin behind and they're not being like...
when they need
like,
2 vans.
yes, exactly. It's really important that this movie establishes that his parents are not horrible people. And I think they really go to lengths to do
So,
that.
I mean, I
Now-
think... So, what's the uncle's name again?
Oh, Uncle Frank, yeah.
Uncle Frank, yeah. He was just being a dick to him for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I don't know. I didn't
poor
grow
Kevin.
Up. I didn't grow up in a big, like, bustling family
Oh,
like
no.
this, so
Oh,
I never really
I
had a
grew up in a
relationship
big
with like
family.
I never had like a shitty uncle or anything. You guys have a shitty uncle or
Yes,
something
yes,
similar?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, stories I could tell. And then we have had, we quickly established you don't talk to somebody else's kid like that.
Yeah.
You talk to the parents, and then the parents deal with it.
Yeah.
That was a thing that was in our family. Arguments started often about somebody trying to, what's the word for when you're punishing somebody?
Discipline?
But kind of, disciplining a child through words, and they're like, no, you don't You don't talk to them like that.
No,
And
not your place.
he not only was he absolutely shitting on Kevin, but it was Kevin's dad that spilt the soda on Uncle Frank.
The dad is very like laissez-faire this entire time. Like
Yeah.
John, I like John Hurt. He's a very like kind of laid back film presence, but like he's very calm through this entire series. And I'm just like, all right, dude, yeah, that's I see why you guys make a good pair, because Catherine O'Hara is very stressed out, but clearly he's doing something right, because that house is unbelievable, and he doesn't seem bothered by any. He's got that wealthy guy thing of just not being bothered by.
Well, it's really interesting because like you think it has to be generational wealth, but Uncle Frank is poor, but the other two brothers aren't. So did he just squander his wealth? What's going on with Uncle Frank?
And he's the
was he
cheap one
disowned?
too. Yeah. He's the one who's not spending anything. But yeah, so we
Look,
get
I would
all
have
of
disowned
these.
Uncle Frank.
We need all of these machinations to get Kevin alone, and like there's that exuberant kind of little kid thing in the beginning of him realizing, okay, yeah, I'm alone. This is actually pretty cool. I get to do whatever I want. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the first time your parents left you home alone, like, well, they left out for the day or something like that. But I reacted in a very similar way, where I'm just like, I can do anything I want.
I had too
Where's
many
the-
siblings for that.
Oh, see, yeah, I had the two, and like the one younger and one older, but I was always kind of put in charge. And so, I would just go nuts.
Yeah, my mom was one of those parents that, like, I didn't really get left alone very often. I had an older sister, and so it would be like I'd be left with my older sister.
Yeah.
I think I was a teenager before I was like,
Yeah, I think.
and like not because they didn't trust me, just because there was like 4 children.
Yeah, the
so it was,
logistics
like,
just.
Yeah.
For a long time, my parents worked different shifts, and then which meant that one of them was typically home. And then when they were both on similar shifts, my mom worked at the school and drove me to and from it.
Yeah.
So,
See, there you
and
go.
then eventually it was like middle school. I lived down the road, and my mom was also working at that school. And so I would walk home because it was like 2 blocks, and I would beat her home. But it's like, I'm home alone for 10 minutes before she gets here. And it's not like I'm not getting away with anything here.
Oh, no.
I get to watch 10 minutes of whatever I want on TV.
There you go. I mean, so Kevin's arc in this movie is a little vague, I guess, to me, okay? Because, like, you're not clear if the arc is that he learned to stop being a little jerk, because we see enough that, like, his family is kind of pushing him to act out the way he's acting out, so we're a little sympathetic with him.
Yeah.
There's also kind of the arc of, like, his sister calls him incompetent.
Incompetent.
Saying
Yeah.
that he doesn't know how to do anything, but he's clearly incredibly resourceful. Like, he doesn't learn how to do that over the course of the movie.
I think he has the male baby syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like, I'm a man, I am a baby, everybody gets to do everything for me. Like, what do you mean? I have to pack my suitcase.
Yeah.
And the thing to me also is that, and this is where I was like piecing together little bits of like the parenting and stuff. He's behaving that way for a reason also, because like he doesn't know how to pack his suitcase. His parents aren't explaining how to pack a suitcase. And this whole thing could have just been solved with like, hey, what do you think you need?
Yeah.
You need clothes, you need da-da. Like, this would have been a quick little, like, parenting thing to have done at any point before this.
But I mean, I'd argue he's able to really quickly rig up these elaborate, like, Rube Goldberg machines in his house to make it
Which
look like
shows
people
he's
live there.
competent, so he is pretending to be incompetent.
Yeah.
Or,
So
yeah.
he doesn't, but like ultimately, I guess he doesn't really learn or grow in that way, because we don't see any kind of montage of him screwing up, like trying to do the laundry and failing, trying to make food and failing. Like, he kind of just has it all on lock.
And
He does laundry very well. And like, I
does.
was surprised. It's like, dude, you're at home. Your clothes probably aren't dirty.
And he learns a valuable lesson about using aftershave, with the iconic
Does
scream
it sting
moment.
that much?
Here's the thing. Never used aftershave. I think that's
Same.
very much a thing of like my dad's generation or older. So like that reference had to be explained to me even when I was a little kid. I'm
Shit.
like, why is he screaming like that? And
For
it's like,
quite
yeah,
a
apparently
while,
it stings.
I would shave without even using shaving cream.
Oh, God.
I would just
Oof.
go in wet. I would get my face all hot and wet, and I'd be like, hey, let's go, buddy.
Oh, buddy. Oh,
And it was fine. I only
gonna
cut.
burn up.
I cut myself a astoundingly low number of times for me being me.
Okay.
It was like 5 total in my
When you talk
life.
about being home alone, so my entire family was taking a nap.
Yeah.
And I decided, being 7 years old, I was going to shave my legs. I come out, so I have this scar to this day.
Oh, no.
I just like one razor and I just went dry up my leg. So I had a 7-8 inch long razor like cut.
Oh.
And it was bleeding like crazy. And I was like, I can't wake up my mom. And it was just keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And it was just like, it was so fucked up. I was like, but it was just like, yeah, I'm talking about doing stupid things when you're a child.
That's horrifying.
Very.
Yeah, that's, yeah. I mean, so Kevin's doing a lot better being home alone than I probably would have. I mean, we haven't really talked about the burglars at all. Now, we're recording 2 episodes sort of back to back. So if we slip in and out of talking about Home Alone 2 and back again, I apologize. Think of this as one big super episode. But I do want to say, like, the burglars in this movie have a menace to them that is not present in the second movie at all. Like, they
What are you talking? No, okay,
No.
no. I'm gonna.
He pulls a gun on a kid.
We're gonna. Okay, let's save
save
talking.
that.
Save it for the. But I will say I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
I will. But there is really something. There is something very menacing about the wet bandits.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting about like how they break into a house and instead just stealing things, they ruin it. They decide to ruin that house.
Yeah.
They ransack it, and then he clogs the drains, runs the water, and floods the house.
Yeah, it's not enough to just take their stuff. So there's something to that. And like, just kind of again, we have to mention John Williams does the score on this movie. It's an incredible,
so good.
timeless
Yes.
score, and he goes a real low tones whenever we have the burglars. Like, there's a scene where they're trying to follow him in the van, and he gets scared and runs
And
away.
like, yeah, unless like, and the kids,
It's
the
the most-
burglars are like, oh, why is he running away? Because you're 2 grown fucking men in a van following him.
You're
Yeah.
2 grown men following him in a van the most inconspicuous way forward, which is keeping yourself a quarter of a block away and just slowly rolling behind him at the same. It's like if you were
Right.
watching an episode of SpongeBob or something.
Right.
Like, that's the level of following we're getting here. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
my God, you painted yourselves as the competent one and the incompetent one early on, and now I'm starting to see maybe you're both in that category.
That's
of
the great thing.
incompetent.
Like, they have this really great like cartoon dynamic, because in the cartoons it's always like there's the little chatty guy who's smart, and then there's the big strong guy who's dumb. So they've got a little bit of that. Marv is fully bought into Harry's bullshit, and I think we read that his patter is bullshit. Although they're good enough at robbing these houses, but they get completely stymied by this little kid. And so we should transition to talk about that last act of this movie, where it's like a completely different movie.
Can't
out
get
of
to the
nowhere.
last act yet. There's a
Okay.
couple of things we got to hit
Please.
before this. First of all, we got to hit there's a real getting to know strangers as friends that you're afraid of storyline in both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And like having this guy be like this sad, lonely man, be alone at Christmas, and this really shows a really redeeming character arc, like for Kevin, for me,
Yes.
is that it shows that he's a good kid, not just a little shit.
Yeah, we do need that, and I love that they cast Robert Blossom as the old man, who he's kind of a horror icon of the 60s and 70s. He did movies like Maniac and Christine, stuff like that. So he looks scary, like he's got that kind of energy, but he can also look very kind of paternal and Santa Clausy in a way. Like when they're having that conversation in the church. That's maybe my favorite scene in the movie, just because they have a real natural back and forth. At least that's the best acting that Culkin does in the movie. I think they just have a real natural pattern.
And I think it's a thing that he does a few times throughout the movies, but like reacting to people and being scared of them, and then going like, "Hey, sorry, I was scared of you."
Yeah. No, the kid's got an emotional maturity that sort of comes through, and that's part of what makes him such a likable kid. But he does start to reach this point. You're right. Like, it's around this time, like he's starting to reach the point where he misses his family and he's scared to be by himself.
And as a note, he thinks they're gone because he said multiple times that he wished they'd disappear.
Yeah.
And then they did.
So yeah, he's got that kind of childlike naivete where he doesn't think to follow up on them in any other way because, well, A, the power lines are down or the phone lines are down and he's not able to reach anybody. But he just kind of assumes that he did this, you know? And that's a very, like, real kid observation because every kid kind of thinks they're the center of the universe to a degree. Like, you can imagine that the world goes away when you close your eyes. So he's got a little bit of that energy, but when he decides it's time to finally defend the house, the tone of the movie changes dramatically for like just a good half an hour of the film. Like the majority of this film is not booby traps and pratfalls, but these are the moments that really made this movie such a box office sensation because this is the stuff you can put in the trailer, right? And
have you seen that French movie? That
yes,
was like
Dial Code Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. Like they were going to
so
show it
cool.
at the Draft House last year, and I almost watched it, but I couldn't get out to watch it. So
yeah, for folks who aren't familiar with this, it's a movie. It goes by several different titles. I saw it under the title Dial Code Santa Claus. It came out the year before Home Alone. And it's kind of like a very, very hard R horror movie version of Home Alone. And I think there might have been a lawsuit at one point, like where they thought that this movie might have been ripping that off. I think they're different enough, but it is kind of a similar thing. It's a little kid trying to defend his elderly grandpa from a serial killer that's broken into the house dressed like Santa Claus. It's wild, and it is so cool. Definitely check that movie out. Yeah, but this movie is almost as violent as that in its own way. Like, I remember some of the violence in this movie shocked me when I was a kid. And, like, my mom would actually have to cover our eyes because even played as cartoonishly as it is, there's a real thing of, like, if Tom and Jerry were a real cat and mouse, you would be horrified by the things that they do to each other, and that's kind of what we're getting here.
I really like the homage to Raiders of the Lost Ark with the hand burning.
Yes, yeah, that was great, and like just all these different little. I mean, which one do you think would kill somebody the fastest? Like, at what point do you think
it's easy?
Dead?
The paint can.
I think the icy stairs might get them first.
I think. Well, it's so funny. You watch this show and you're like, oh god, like. You're back. You're just like you're back. You'd be done. You'd be done. You'd be like phoned. You'd be like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It quickly turns from we want to rob this house to we want to fuck this kid up.
Right.
Like we hate this kid. We're gonna destroy him.
And they just keep getting stymied.
It's a tightrope walking of being menacing without being too menacing, being cartoonish without being too cartoonish.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie strikes that balance really well. It's a wise decision to have the two burglars split up early in the sequence so that like we can ping pong back and forth between their various injuries. So we're getting set piece after set piece after set piece after set piece. It's really entertaining and fast paced. I like that there's kind of a theme to the injuries they get. Like all of Marv's injuries are to his feet while all of Harry's injuries are fire related. Yeah. You know, so they're like taking damage as the movie goes on and like just getting more and more fucked up. And yeah, you know, like you said, we do need to still believe that it's really bad for this kid if they finally catch up to him. So like there is a moment at the end of the sequence where they do catch him. And we need to believe that that's actually really bad because not only are they bigger and stronger than him, they're really pissed off because he just messed them up very
And they
severely.
just hang him up on a coat hanger on the back of a door. They're just like, you know what? Fuck you, kid.
Yeah.
You're stuck here now. And now we're going to talk about what we're going to do to you.
Right.
And the first thing he goes to is, I'm going to put a blowtorch to his head because he did that to me.
And then they try and bite his fingers off. And apparently Macaulay Culkin got a real injury during that scene because somebody bumped Joe Pesci and he bit him a little bit.
Oh, no!
He's got a little scar. Pesci apparently felt horrible, as you can imagine. But
and then they get shoveled.
They get shoveled. Yeah, we get the old man who apparently was observing this the entire time and just doing nothing to help.
Well, he wasn't. So I was wondering, so he went to the house that they'd already burgled, which I thought was really interesting that you're just like... Kevin McAllister has a real fuck the police attitude.
He is. He's early ACAB. Yeah. Yeah, he never thinks to go to the cops.
Well, and it's
Well, he did. He did call the cops.
Oh, eventually,
but they made sure that it was at a different house than
Yes.
his, so that he didn't get caught up in the police dragnet because he stole a toothbrush.
He stole
That's
a
right. Well,
toothbrush.
and the phones were out at his house too. So like, and I think maybe it would strain some kind of legal credibility if like a little kid's involved in this in any way. But you know, it's a pretty fun sequence. Like if you can put aside how horrific some of these things are, like the nail through the foot really bugs me to this day. Like that's such a painful.
Oh,
looking
do you
thing.
remember the what was it? The Quiet Place?
Yeah.
I was like, I love to bringing the nail back.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Don't anybody out there, you don't have to bring the nail back. It's okay.
No, it's a
fine
thing.
without
Yeah,
it.
it's coming back in a big way. But yeah,
I
it's
loved
a reverse sequence, and I think it's really this kind of typifies what I like about John Hughes is that he can switch gears in the middle of it without you losing the emotional through line. Like this movie does not hold together 100% like perfectly the entire time. Some of the character motivations are a little specious, and like sometimes it's just a little too excessive for its own good. But the reason this movie has kind of endured is because of how just sheerly fun it is and how willing it is to blend all these genres.
Yeah, when he runs around the back of the neighbor's house, opens their cellar door and goes in, and it cuts down. The first thought I had was, what the fuck is wrong with these people's house? This is terrible.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. They've been wet banded.
I see what you did here.
And of course, you get a lovely little conclusion where the family gets back, you know, and there's a nice ironic twist of like she struggled to get there and like hitchhiked in a freezing cold polka bus
With
and then,
John Candy.
with John Candy doing a nice little cameo for his friend John Hughes. They just made Uncle Buck together. Uncle Buck's a wonderful movie. Check out Uncle Buck if you haven't watched that. You know, they have a nice little moment, and he got to improvise all of his bits.
Well, and she probably improvised as well because she's a very famous improviser before she became
Okay.
They were
actress.
Those two were on SCTV back in the early 80s, which is kind of the Canadian answer to SNL. And that's where Eugene Levy and Rick Moranis and John Candy, all these guys come from. So like,
What does the SC stand for?
Second City.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Because Toronto had a second city.
Yeah.
I was like, Southern Canada Television.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of. Yeah, the southern part of Canada is where you want to be.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah, let's let's transition a little bit to the games here because we do have another movie we're going to talk about tonight, and I think these games are really weird and interesting in their own ways. Terrible, but weird and interesting in their own ways.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil it. These games are bad. So the Home Alone games were released between 1991 and 1992. Hard to pin that down because the release dates were not all on one day back then. This is developed by Bethesda Softworks. So
Oh my God, Bethesda!
So if you played Skyrim or Fallout lately, you have
What?
this game to thank, and it was
What?
published by THQ. This is available on
That's
NES, Super
nuts.
NES, Game Boy, Master System, Genesis, Amiga, DOS, Game Gear. You could play versions of this just about everywhere. Now, each version of the game like has the right tack, I think, where it's like you need to defend your house against the invading burglars. It's taking that 20-minute sequence of the movie and making that a game. It's the right way to approach the game. I don't have any beef with that. The beef I have with it is just the execution of it. So let's talk a little bit about the NES version. We played the NES and the Super NES. I think they're very different games in a lot of ways. The NES game is a little infamous at this point because a lot of people bought this game, and so I think a lot of people share the same frustration that we were encountering with this game. Basically, your goal here is you're walking around in kind of the cross-section of your house, and you need to pick up traps, leave them on the ground for the burglars, and survive the game for 20 minutes.
I just want to clarify, not your house, but Kevin's house.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, it's not a digital rendition of your own house.
That would be wild.
Yes. So they, that's kind of the basic idea here. And like as a concept, I don't hate this. The idea of kind of prepping your house for a bunch of booby traps and like you can set, like there's an interesting game idea here. But what this translates to on the NES is very different from that. Like you are not like, for instance, you can run around the house picking up like micro machines or the tarantula or the Christmas lights, all the different things he uses in the movie. But you're not seeing these things happen. Basically what you're doing is picking up an icon and then putting that icon on the floor. And then the burglar will walk into it and fall over, and that's it.
And then, depending on which item it was, is how long they will stay down before they get back up. And they walk faster than you, and going up and down staircases is hard.
Yeah.
It's such a glitchy game.
It's very glitchy. Yeah, it's got that kind of early Castlevania thing where you need to be specifically in the right pixel place, and then you press up and then like diagonal slightly to get up the stairs. It takes a lot of finesse to get it happening.
Except while
and
you're
you
doing
need to
that-
be quick. You need to be quick. You made the comparison
Yes.
to Pac-Man. Like, this does have kind of a Pac-Man-y vibe, except you have fewer points of evasion. You know, like you'll multiple times you'll get into a position where like you'll just corner yourself and there's nothing you can do. And maybe sometimes we ran into issues of like, we're trying to get down these stairs, but this game is so finicky with its controls that I can't get down these stairs.
I think so. You're supposed to survive for 20 minutes. I think the longest any of us survived was 3 minutes.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, and that was a good run. Like 3 minutes was a good run.
And
It's
I'm
really
gonna
weird
throw
'cause
out there-
I don't think that the time was accurate because it felt
don't
longer than
either.
3 minutes.
Yeah,
Because it technically it was the time that I saw on the screen was like 27 and change.
Okay.
So that means it was less than 3 minutes, and I was like, I feel like it's been 5.
It's really hard to tell because the game like resets quickly. You know, that's something I can say for it.
Yeah.
If you die, you can immediately just boom, you start the game over again, and it's meant to be played in these little bursts. But there's a harder difficulty mode on there where you have
What?
to survive for 40 minutes, and I cannot imagine.
This is like the original roguelike.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Except there's no real sense of development or evasion. Like, you get pretty
Yeah.
familiar with the mechanics of this pretty quickly, and since there's zero differentiation between the animations when you use a trap, like it kind of just doesn't matter what trap you're using. Yeah, like this could just be anything. This could just be a box with a picture of a dick on it for all we care. Like that's all it needs to be. Like it's really unsatisfying.
I figured it out right near the end. You can pick up the TV.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't know that.
Don't know why. Yeah, you can pick it up and then just use it as a trap, I guess.
Yeah, just you. It's a really addictive show, so
Yeah.
you have to sit and watch. And
I
you're
mean,
like, oh dang.
I can appreciate that they are trying to capture the vibe of the movie a little bit. Like they've got the house design, maybe not necessarily dead on accurate, but you've got the rope ladder leading over to the tree house if you need to make a quick escape. Like I can appreciate they have stuff like that. You know, you can go down to your basement and find the furnace down there.
Can you?
It's possible. But
Is it
we weren't able
possible?
to figure it out
Okay.
because the controls are so bad.
I was
But it
able
is
to get
possible.
onto the staircase and go down the staircase until I appeared to be hitting my head on something.
Yeah.
And was then unable to go into the staircase.
Because
However,
got you, yeah.
the wet bandits were able to go down there.
Yeah.
And like
and crawl up and down the side of the building.
yeah, which I was also able to do. But I was like, how did you guys get down there? Because when I tried to get down there, it stopped me.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
was physically incapable.
It was really, yeah, like I said, it's glitchy. Like there were times like I wasn't clear if you were hiding in the Christmas tree or if the game was just flashing and
Yeah.
you were disappearing into the Christmas tree. And yeah, just very unsatisfying. Like I would almost be in favor of a modern game that allows you to just
Yeah.
like prepare your house, design your traps, and then just kind of execute and see how
Especially
it goes.
in this interesting asymmetrical genres that we have right now of like Dead by Daylight. We have the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
We had the Friday the 13th game. What was the one that we played?
Texas Chainsaw
Texas
Massacre.
Chainsaw
Yeah.
Massacre.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it like that, or you could do it like a tower defense game. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you set up all of your turrets and everything like that, and then see if they can get in. And then, okay, I just had identified a new point of access for the burglars. You know, like there's an idea here that I can appreciate, but the execution is so boring and so unsatisfying.
It's a bad game.
It's a very bad game. Now, the Super Nintendo game is a little bit more straightforward. That's just like a side-scrolling platformer. But this one feels much less true to the spirit of the movie. 'Cause
They've got like little gangsters in full suits.
that's the thing. It's like they look like the little gangsters from the fake film noir he's watching. You know, like that's where they look. They don't look like
They
Harry Marv at
reminded
all.
me of like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, hey, you got the mobster here.
And like I did encounter Joe Pesci in this game. Like Harry and Marv are characters in this game, but they also have just like half a dozen other cronies that are wandering around with
The
you.
Well,
opening
it's funny,
sequence is like the Harry and Marv are in the van.
Yeah.
And it's like, good thing we just got out of the joint. Did you get all the boys? And then it's like, okay, all right, there's gonna be more than 2.
Well, it's funny because like they have actual sprites of Marv and Harry in this one, but they don't in the other one that we played.
Yeah, they looked pretty different. Maybe that's just the best
They
that
had
they
beards.
could do. Yeah, well, I mean, Marv has a beard at least. Yeah, but yeah, Harry had a beard in the other game too. And really, your goal in this one is not so much trap focused as treasure focused. You're supposed to run around your house, find all of your bits of treasure, and then drop it down the laundry chute so it's safe. Yeah. Like, that's the idea.
Because criminals can't get to the basement.
Yeah.
We all know.
No, they can't do it.
They definitely didn't just put a hole in his floor and then repeatedly go down to the basement in the movie.
Not at all.
That'd be crazy.
I found this one less offensively bad, I guess, than the NES game, but it's also really uninspired, and the controls are floaty. Like, it wasn't very fun either way. Like, and I think having a more conventional approach to it is kind of a knock against it in a way.
And really boring, like minimal gameplay engagement.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was less bad, but still not more good.
Yeah.
There you go. Very succinctly put. Yeah. I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot to hang your hat on. Like, this kind of looks like every other Super Nintendo game of the era, and just kind of a minimal amount of thought was put into it. Like, I think you can find traps as like power-ups every once in a while. Like, you can drop some micro machines behind you, but again, the animations are not satisfying or fun.
What's the deal with the water gun?
It's just the go-to kid weapon, you know?
Yeah, but
Like,
it doesn't do anything.
it stuns gangsters.
Does it?
Yeah, it makes the gangsters double over, so it's easier to jump over.
You have to hit them like 5 or 6 times,
I'm
but
a dummy.
they
can-
will still hurt you if you walk into them.
Yeah, so you can jump over them no matter what, but if you shoot them, it's easier to jump over.
I was just going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I shot him a few times, and I'm like, he's just ducking. I don't know what's happening. Does he normally do that? I don't know. He's not moving because the first guy you see is stationary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely just didn't use the spray gun.
Yeah. I mean, you could have. Yeah, you get a slingshot, I think, at some point, another like classic kid weapon, but really, like, I read that the engine that they used on this game is the same one that they use. If it feels familiar at all, it's because it's the same one that they used for a game called Bart versus the Space Mutants on the NES. You know that? You remember that?
I did play that.
That bad Simpsons game where you have
Yeah.
to spray paint purple things. Don't tell me you like that game.
Well, I'm trying to think. There was a Simpson game I liked.
Okay.
I don't remember which one it was.
The two
you
on the
drive
NES
cars?
were
Oh.
Bart versus the Space Mutants and Bart versus the World. I think
Yeah.
Bart versus the World was a little bit more playable, but they were both pretty bad. Most of the Simpsons games are pretty bad. But yeah,
Simpsons Hit and Run though.
Simpsons Hit and Run was a lot of fun. I enjoy that one. But yeah, pretty bad game. Pretty bad games for both of these. You know, definitely quick cash-ins. I'm gonna give them props for trying to adapt the movie in an interesting way, trying to gamify this pretty iconic sequence in the movie. But maybe the technology just wasn't there, or the execution just wasn't
Similar to the Die Hard game, I was like, oh, this is an interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
This is an interesting style of game. It's an interesting idea. Execution, not quite there.
Not great. Well, do we have any final thoughts about Home Alone? We are going to be moving on to talking about Home Alone 2 just this evening. But do we have any final thoughts about this first movie?
It's a great movie.
It's really fun. It's kind of undeniable.
Well, it's undeniable, and like the casting is amazing.
Absolutely.
And it really captures the chaos of a big family Christmas. And it also gives you that aspirational, like, wealth, because you're like,
Yeah.
One day I want to be this rich.
Well, not even so much that. You're like, rich. Man, rich people have it easy.
It's a Nancy Meyer's kitchen before the Nancy Meyer's kitchen. Like, it's a pretty beautiful house. Yeah. And who would have thought the little Fuller, a little kid who wets his pants, would be an Emmy-nominated star of Succession? Like,
Only nominated? He didn't win?
I don't think he's won yet.
Oh my
I don't
gosh,
know. I
maybe
might be
he'll win
wrong
this
about
year.
that. Yeah, this is his last chance, and this was probably the best.
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think that this is going to be the last we see of him. Like, he's such a good actor.
I mean, I guess it's his last chance for the
Succession.
Succession role. But Yeah, well, let's move on to our rankings. If this is a good movie, good game, bad movie, bad game, or somewhere in between. I think we've all tipped our hands at this point. I'm going to give it a good movie and a bad game. Both of these games were pretty bad. Super Nintendo maybe slightly better, but less original.
I'm going to say great movie and atrocious game. I'm
Ooh.
like, this is like right up there.
It's near the bottom for you.
With like, it's not quite E.T., but it's like maybe 3 or 4 notches above E.T.
Yeah, it's a pretty infamous one for lovers of bad games. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, good movie. Bethesda definitely wasn't in their prime at this point. This was pre-Daggerfall and all that, so they had a lot of work to do.
Yay.
And they didn't do it very well.
I see no difference between this and Evil Within. Same game. Same game. Yeah, no. Yeah, well, excellent, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. As we've said, we are going to be continuing this little mini-series and closing out the year on Home Alone 2, which we are going to get ready to go record right now. So we will see you all next week, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. We'll see. I'm going to say it again. I don't care. I'm repetitive. Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
I hope your basement's wet.
All right, I'm going to have to censor that. Okay, this is a kid's show. Calm down. It's not a kid's show. All right, bye, everyone.